Well, welcome. Tonight could be a feisty discussion
Woo! Looks at me.
because the pre-show was heated. Why don't we start with the introductions?
Christine Crane from Milford, part of Drinking Liberally and the Milford Democratic Party. I mean, Town
Committee.
Democrat.
Town Committee.
You know what I mean.
Rand Barthel, climate activist and member of the Mendon Democratic Town Committee.
Glenn Wyke from Milford, also a member of the Milford Democratic Town Committee.
Lauren Wilton, attorney, also a member of the Milford Democratic Town Committee. I'm on the steering committee for Indivisible and other stuff.
Finance Committee.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there is that.
That's how I know you. And also Lawyers for Good Government.
Lawyers for Good Government. Are there lawyers for bad government?
Well, in the Trump administration.
There are.
That was so, you just gave
good
that to me.
Yeah, it's sort of a default. It's
Yeah,
not,
DOJ.
it's not like a group that.
Yeah.
Here's one that could lighten conversation. I'm hearing that there's a movement to have people who are not citizens vote.
Yeah, that's news to us.
Yeah.
I think really it's a canard by the right to clamp down on elections, to make it much harder to vote. And they're using that as an excuse
Yep.
as
Okay.
to why.
Al,
'Cause
what's the turnout in Milford for the town election?
9%.
Okay, all right. We can't get our own residents to vote. Immigrants are afraid to go to the grocery store because of ICE. Voter fraud does not exist. It is a right-wing talking point.
The
It
Heritage
does
Foundation
not
said it doesn't exist. If they say it doesn't exist,
They actually tried to find it.
yeah, right.
And every time they did find, like, because it's like less than 1% of the
It's-
voting population, it's always a Republican. That's the irony of it. So this whole SAVE Act thing, saving voting, no. It's basically a war against women.
Yeah.
It's a huge voter suppression bill.
Yeah.
Okay, help me understand. How are they suppressing voting?
For women, well, I'll let you answer that.
All right. Well, all
That's a
right.
good move.
You have a right to vote,
Yes.
right? Okay. Well, if you have a right to vote, why do you have to produce a passport,
Which costs money.
which
wait a
costs
minute.
money?
I want to get on a plane. I have to produce an ID.
You don't have a right to go on a plane.
You
That's
don't
a
have a right,
privilege.
that's a choice. Yeah.
So we should do away with all IDs?
That's not,
Well-
now
That's
you're
not the
going too
point.
extreme.
That's not the
We
point.
Well, no,
should
but I'm
do
trying to
away-
figure
No,
out.
but Al, if you
So-
need to drive a car, you get a driver's license, right?
Right.
If you're going to be a plumber, you get a plumber's license. You're going to be a lawyer, be a lawyer's license. It's the same thing, right? To vote, that is a right. You have a right to vote. Think about going back when black people were first allowed to vote in the South and they had poll tax. How many jelly beans are in this jar? You guess it wrong, you can't vote. It's creating reasons to not be able to
Barriers,
use your
purpose
constitutional right.
They were
That's what
doing
this
that
is.
back years ago. I think they were limiting the amount of voting places in highly democratic states, highly places where people of color lived. I mean, they do all kinds of passive-aggressive things
part that's-
that block the ability or
The
don't
part
make it
that's
easy.
got me annoyed is that if we wanted to solve the ID problem, keep town hall open on Saturday and give away free IDs.
I don't think we have an ID problem.
No, but Al, let's say you're running late from work,
And-
right? You
and if
go
this were
home,
a
you
good-
feed
yeah.
your kids, you get there at 7:58, just in time. You screech in just in time to do your constitutional right to vote. Oh, you don't have your license? Sorry. It's stupid.
But
Well-
even then, in the SAVE Act, a driver's license is not valid ID in their
That's right.
Because
in
it
their
doesn't prove
estimation.
citizenship.
Right, it doesn't
Oh,
prove
wait a minute.
citizenship.
I was going to say, I went to get my real ID because they told me that my license was no longer good enough.
Right.
Even the real
I had
ID,
real
I
Real
don't
ID
think they
does not
accept.
prove citizenship. Well, it depends on the state, I think.
depends on the state,
if
yeah.
you use your passport, if you have a passport and use that as ID to establish your real ID, your passport is evidence of citizenship. But once you've got the real ID isn't.
Yeah, but how many
Because you-
people really have passports?
Well,
Not
a-
every-
I mean,
probably a
I don't want to be
minority.
cold about it,
About
but
40% of the country, I think,
I
something
was
like
going
that.
to say, there's a lot of people who haven't left New England. We worked with a woman in our office who referred to those dang Southerners. I said, Southerners? New Haven? She goes, yeah, the people from Connecticut, Southern New England. That's right. You know, so you
Yeah.
sit there and say to her, the country ended at Connecticut.
But here's the thing. Think about this. The way historically voting has been in this country. When for most of the history of this country, there weren't really organized birth certificates. There weren't social security cards. There really, like, all through the 19th century, there was no identification. People didn't carry around documentation that proved their citizenship. In fact, there wasn't even immigration law. You climbed off the boat and started living here. And so throughout most of our history, it was sufficient and was considered sufficient that when you went registered to vote, you swore under penalties of perjury that you were a U.S. citizen. And that was it. And so now we have the fact that people are saying, well, that's not good enough. But nobody has produced any evidence that there is a significant problem to be solved by forcing everybody to go through a huge bureaucratic hassle. And so the burden of proof is on the people who advocate all of this strict ID stuff
Well, it's like I
to
hear
prove that we need it.
we got all this voter fraud.
But there isn't.
It's
And
a
then you sit there
solution
and
in
say,
search of a
"Where's the
problem."
data?
There
Yeah.
is no data that
There
supports it. To the extent that there has been investigations on this, it's always come out that there is no fraud.
See,
And that's another thing. Vote by mail. He's going on and on about, oh, vote by mail. It's
And
the
then he
most
votes by
fraudulent
mail.
thing. He votes by mail.
I
Yeah.
vote by mail.
Yeah.
Wow, I mean, why?
My
What's
mom
the
has
problem?
to vote by mail. She's bedridden.
No, for me it was convenience because I used to commute 2 hours. And
Yeah.
to be back in time, I'd have to leave the office early or whatever. So I started getting ballots. And I've just continued it because it's
And remember
convenient.
when we weren't able to do that and how silly it seemed? Because it's like, you're a good person, you know you're going to do the right thing, and you're going to vote. Like, why does there have to be all these barriers? It's a constitutional right. I cannot stress this enough, okay? And so what he is doing, he keeps trying to create, this is a narcissistic thing. You create, Christine knows about this, not because she's a narcissist, because she's a therapist. She creates, you create splitting behavior, right?
Right.
So it's like, I am so wonderful. These people are so terrible. These are the people that everything's
They're the
terrible,
problem.
and they're the problem. It's these immigrants. They want to vote. They just want to survive in a place that is really hostile to them right now.
There was an experiment done years ago, and it's of course forbidden now. The teacher did an experiment with kids in the classroom.
The blue eyes?
Remember the blue eyes and the brown
brown eyes,
eyes?
yeah.
And it's amazing how people can be manipulated and really believe some of this stuff and turn on each other. No? And that's exactly what he's doing.
So-
I think the plantation owners used to do that with the slaves too. They would play favorites so that they
right.
dissent amongst themselves and they wouldn't gang up against them. It's really.
But you
a
brought it
very-
up. We had the last few elections in Milford. And I know I'm being very localized.
Pedestrian.
Yes. But it's been 9% turnout.
Right? So government, meaning the select board, but in general, government should be doing everything possible to encourage and make it easier to vote. Why are we disenfranchising all these people? Why are we trying to prevent disabled people, elderly people? Why are we making it hard? It should be the
People that
easiest
get
thing in the
voted in all the
world.
time have
Well,
security
if you're
with
trying
that.
to solve a problem, I know I'm jaundiced view of American technology, but American technology always seems to come up with a way.
Yes.
If we
there was a
wanted,
good faith interest in solving a problem,
we did a
would
real
solve it.
ID. I went and got a new license. Couldn't you put a note in there, like a little green star or something, that you proved that you were a U.S. citizen?
You certainly could do that. And if you actually wanted to create a papers please society like this, you could and you were in good faith about it, you could put programs in place that would help people remedy their documentation and help people, or you grandfather people perhaps and phase it in over time and stuff like that. and you could actually get to a society where everybody has the ID. But this isn't a good faith effort to solve a problem. It is a bad faith effort to
find the problem.
to create partisan advantage for yourself in an election.
Because
Because
they
he
created the problem
knows-
first.
Because they know that the people who are most organized about their documentation tend to be, kind of middle class and up people, and they're more likely to vote Republican than people who face food insecurity, housing insecurity, and other kinds of obstacles that make it harder for people to keep their documents in order.
They're just trying to keep the rich rich.
And that's kind of
That's
where it ends
really
up.
what's happening here, and it's just not right, and we have to fight against it. And what makes me crazy is when they make complicated things simplistic. Oh, well, what's the big deal? Just show an ID. That's not the point. The point is you're suppressing people's right to vote.
And what's insidious about that is that they're talking to other people in kind of their demographic for whom it isn't a problem, and that sounds so plausible.
People are so out of touch.
I represented somebody who I can't remember the circumstances of why he needed his driver's license. I can't remember if he needed to get his electric bill turned on. There was something where he had to produce his driver's license, and he produced it, but it had expired because he was unemployed and he couldn't afford to get it renewed.
The whole cycle.
Right? People do not understand how difficult it can be to get
But see,
an
that to
bureaucratic
me
stuff
is
you
an
have to go through.
absolute case study for why you're not trying to fix a problem. If, and I hate to say spend money, but if the issue is people can't afford driver's licenses, give them one.
No, it wouldn't be a driver's license. It would be a. But I see what you're
It
saying.
would
Yeah,
be a-
yeah, yeah.
Give
I
them
mean,
one.
Yeah.
I mean, my mother never got a driver's license. She lived in Milford 80 years, right? But she got an ID. She went to the registry and they gave her, it looked like a driver's license, but it was just an ID
Right.
that she could use.
So you just have a universal smart ID that it contains in it information about any privileges like driving that you have that you currently have.
Yeah, it's like
And then-
But that can change. That can vary. What if you get arrested for DUI?
Right.
Now you got to have a new. And the thing is, municipalities don't have the money, and they don't want to spend the money. So who's going to spend it? And
Right.
it cracks me up because we
Right.
don't have enough money for health care.
Right.
But boy, we got $1 billion a day
To
bomb
bomb a faraway
countries.
country.
Pay 50,000 a
And kill
bonus
people.
for ICE too.
So, like-
So I mean, that doesn't make sense, does it?
No, it
It's
makes
all
no
policy
sense.
choices.
But
It's
people
not.
need to stop falling for this.
What's next on the discussion? Partial shutdown or the Iran
Oh, are we
war?
done with this?
Yeah, I think we should. But we only
Let's
have
talk
an
with
hour.
Iran.
Okay.
Right.
Talk about the war.
Yeah, let's talk about the war. It's obvious that
Well, wait, which war?
the
The
Iran war.
unofficial
We'll
ones?
talk mostly
'Cause,
about
we
Iran,
get the
but-
blowing
Yes.
up of people in the boats.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get that
let's
in.
test
We could get that in, too.
Okay.
The big one is the Iran war.
Yes. And it all started after Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, visited Trump. And what the discussion was about necessarily, nobody knows. But after that, Netanyahu's wanted a war with Iran for 40 years, finally got it. And I don't know if there was a strategy. They had talked about who they would want to run the country after they do the decapitation strategy, which apparently is what they decided on. And then they promptly blew up the second and third guy in order who they wanted to.
Yeah, well, I got a
have.
kick out of the fact they
take
said the Ayatollah's son has not been out in public. Well, let's see. My father got blown away. His replacement got blown away. His replacement got blown away.
yeah.
Yes.
And all his friends. Boy, I want to go out with a big target on me.
Yes.
And nice going, USA. So we blow up an old Ayatollah, and now we've got a
Younger
younger,
and-
angrier Ayatollah who's
Right.
looking for revenge.
it's not like this-
Way to go, USA. Nice job. Bravo.
So decapitation failed to topple the regime. Now we have just another Ayatollah in charge. What is the strategy? it looks like we're gearing up now for a ground invasion, and they're asking for $200 billion, and for what? We have no idea. We
There's
don't
no
know what the
game
end
plan.
game. What's the end game? Where's the off ramp? How is Trump going to declare victory here?
Do you think he's going to go in with boots?
It's
Yes!
sounding
Well,
like
they're,
it.
they're
He's-
certainly moving a lot of personnel there.
and it's still not a war? He's not gone to Congress?
It's a
There's-
special operation.
Oh, okay.
know.
I
As
think
long
it
as
was
we
an
reframe it in
excursion.
a
It was
certain
just
way.
a little excursion.
Little-
Okay.
little-
Police
little
action,
Putinism
like
there.
Vietnam?
I wonder what will happen if he puts boots on the street and American kids start getting killed.
They've already gotten killed.
Some of them, we've
How long
already
was
had.
the Iraq War?
Yeah, I mean, that was 20 years. We'll see. But the other part of this is that when they did the strikes, they heavily protected Israel targets and kind of didn't really protect ours too well, and definitely did not protect our Middle East allies, if you can call them allies, sites either, where we have our bases.
Well, then what would you, I mean, I heard one word that the right side versus the liberal side used. It said enough. That over the years, they've just had enough of Iran causing trouble.
Oh, really? I would have thought the one word would have been oil. No?
Oil.
Not oil? Not money?
I've heard pundits talk about what they want from Iran, and it sounds an awful lot like the JCPOA,
Right.
The thing that Obama had negotiated
The,
with
the agreement
Iran.
that Trump had trashed,
And now has done it again, just
and we probably
reinstituted it.
can't get anything much better than that.
Well, they would never agree to it now because they don't trust us.
Right.
But the
They'd
fact
be idiots
is,
to trust us.
the biggest problem with that agreement was that Obama's signature was on it. That's the only problem anybody had with it on the right. And the fact is that they weren't creating a nuclear bomb. They were being heavily researched and investigated by the European Union still, even after we pulled out of the deal. And so we were very well aware of the enrichment level and other aspects of their
But help me understand, if their goal was to create fuel for commercial reactors, didn't we offer them fuel for life at a commercial level for free?
That
they
may have
turned
been
us
part
down?
of the Obama agreement.
No, recently.
Well, I don't know what I don't.
I don't
You know,
know.
I don't
'Cause
pay
it
much
was-
attention because I don't actually think that anything that comes out of Trump's mouth is serious.
I mean, he said he was having
he'll contradict
negotiations
it
with
in-
the head of
in
Iran,
10
and then
minutes.
Iran was like, nobody's talking to him.
Well,
Yeah.
I thought he obliterated them last.
Yeah, if he
He did.
obliterated the nuclear
Right, the nuclear
capability,
capability, what
then
we're
Now
done.
we're demanding that they shut down capabilities that we allegedly obliterated.
it's all a lie.
Yeah,
It's
all of
just
it
a
is.
distraction, and not for nothing. And this is my sign for no king, so nobody use it. But regime change begins at home. Okay? This is ridiculous. We go into Venezuela, a sovereign nation. We just plop his president out. He might have been a terrible guy. Well, he was a terrible guy. Who cares? That's their problem. That's not our problem. America first, right? Am I right?
well,
Why are we blowing up people that we can't even identify? and-
Lauren, what gives us the right?
Nothing.
no,
go
there
in.
is no right to do
No.
that.
You know, I mean, I sit there and I
You-
say,
you have
if
to
somebody invaded Massachusetts, I'd pick up a gun to defend it.
Yeah.
Not that I'm a warmonger or anything, but you're coming into my house, threatening my family, but you sit there and say, I'm not a Cuba fan, I'm not a Cuba detractor, but regime change, fundamentally, what gives us the right to decide? I mean, our country was built on freedom of speech.
Trump is sitting there saying that he's going to take over this country. That country is in darkness,
Right.
and like their infrastructure is just a mess. And he's just, I don't know.
He has no respect for human life.
And then Greenland, our ally Denmark, is going to blow up landing strips so that we can't land
Right.
and attack them.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Do you think he was serious with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Really?
People have to assume that he was.
Why would we not think that?
Given his history, he's bombing.
He's very mercurical,
I mean,
too. I mean,
and remember how he
NATO
said that he
is
stopped
set up.
8 wars? What 8 wars?
And we're going to attack a NATO country?
Yeah, well,
He's
He
delusional.
doesn't. He's been insulting NATO for his whole time in office.
Well, look, I've always said Trump's biggest problem is his mouth.
Well,
If he-
the brain behind it, or lack thereof, is also a
If
pretty
he could
severe
keep
problem.
quiet, he'd get a lot more done.
And that's why, when he's been blustering about them for years now, that when he goes and he wants to open the Strait of Hormuz, that they tell him to get lost.
Right.
Nobody's helping us.
And can I just point out that he campaigned on no wars, no
Yeah.
more foreign
End of-
wars.
end of
America
forever
first.
wars.
And
Well, he
lower
said he-
gas
So-
prices
He said
and
he-
lower groceries.
He canceled 8 wars already.
Yeah. Oh, he said, oh, when I get into office, Ukraine and Russia, that'll be over on day one. Okay, well, it's not.
He was supposed to do a lot on day one, though.
Yeah.
That was going to be a very busy day.
Yeah, if we could go back to the Iran war just for a sec. Iran has been kind of preparing for this war for a long time. And they are not going to go toe-to-toe with us on the battlefield. They've been looking to do an insurgent underground strategy this whole time. They have all their missile silos underground. They have their missile building capabilities underground. And they've been doing a lot of damage with drones. And their drones are very cheap. They're like between $20,000 and $35,000.
Versus $1 million to shoot it down.
Yes.
Right.
Each interceptor that we build is $1 million or $2 million, between 1 and 2. And we're using them, they shoot 2 at the target each time. Now, Iran has been using some of their old missiles to eat up the interceptors in Israel and other places that have the Iron Dome technology. But soon they'll be unleashing their new missiles, and we'll see what happens then. But you can see, Israel's really clamped down on the media, but they're taking a lot of damage. And this is the first time in a regional war where Israel has had to face some of the consequences of their aggression, And so I don't know how long that's going to go on, whether they're going to continue to be for the war, but we'll just have to see. But the fact is that the Iran war is going to do nothing for us. We don't want, it's only going to, at this point, either we're in a protracted war that we can't win because we're spending way more money and resources than we can afford.
But we can't win because we don't even know what the end goal is.
Well,
we
yeah.
don't.
What does winning look
there's
like?
The fundamental question
Well-
is, how do you win?
And
What's the win?
Right. What does it look
We
like?
don't even have a stated goal, so.
Another point about this is that, so it has been obvious for decades that the Strait of Hormuz was Iran's trump card,
No pun
and-
intended.
so to speak, and it is actually their trump card. They have been preparing to shut that down and keep it shut down for decades, but the Trump regime seems to have been taken by surprise by the fact that they did that. It's
Trump
like
himself
He didn't-
discounted the
it's
idea.
like yeah, it's like
you got to have guts, though. You got to just go right through there and just have guts. And Russia is benefiting now from this, right?
And now, of course,
So the
we're
oil prices,
using,
people are buying Russian
Russia's
oil.
benefiting, China's taking it
yeah,
on the chin.
we are depleting our stocks of all these missiles to the point where defense of Taiwan is becoming questionable. There are real strategic consequences to this.
Other countries are watching, aren't they?
And we see what we see here is just evidence upon evidence upon evidence of rank incompetence.
Well, right now, what this
and-
is telling me is invest in Raytheon. Because we're going to have to replace all that $200 billion.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to have to be used to replace all the missiles and
Yeah.
$1 million a
People
missile.
people can't even afford to fill up their gas tanks. Like, it's what is it, $3.79 a
went up
gallon?
to-
now?
yeah,
We're
I've
looking
been
at
paying
making
attention.
money off the war.
I no longer own anything that can burn gasoline.
See, you're
so
smart. Shout out to the woman in Pennsylvania, though, who was interviewed on local news. Who, this guy was asking people at the gas station, like, what do you think about these elevated gas prices? And he goes, what would you say to Trump if you could talk to him right now? And she goes, I would call him a putrid pile of you can figure
know.
out the last word. And then and he goes, well, did you vote for Trump? And she goes, 3 times. She goes, that was my bad. Apparently, I'm an idiot. But I was just like,
That's good.
That's
That's self-awareness.
you know, I don't care. Come on board. I don't care. The water is fine here in reality. You know what I mean?
Here on Earth
His-
1.0.
I give him a lot of credit
His-
for owning that.
His approval ratings right now are in the toilet. There are the 30% of people who are just diehard. They will not leave him, which means they're in a cult because there is no other, there's no logical other reason.
Right, it's-
Right? But the rest of the country is soundly against him. And so it's very important that we point out that this Saturday is going to be the largest protest ever in this country. Every time we've had a No Kings protest, it's increased
grown.
by 2 million. And now with the war and everything else going on, with the prices, and the Epstein
Yeah.
files, let's not forget that.
And ICE at airports
and,
now.
So-
and there are 19 events in this region, in towns
Yeah.
in this region.
I think there's like 3,100 in the
Yeah.
nation.
Wow.
And
But
so this
what's the-
Saturday in Milford,
what's the
Draper
goal of
Park,
these-
11 to
The
1.
point
You
is,
talked about the people not wanting to deal with some of the stuff. That's the people speaking.
Yeah.
the point of
Because-
this is to put pressure on politicians among as one group, and also other people who are in positions of power and influence, to rethink their subservience to this regime, and to begin backing away from. I mean, we have captured media in this country,
CNN just got taken
you know,
away.
and we have
Captured media.
captured media that now is now owned by oligarchs who are aligned with Trump.
And they have an agenda, and they're going to want to.
CNN?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
CNN just got
CNN
purchased.
just
yeah,
got bought.
They bought CBS, and their news has been defanged. as
60
well.
Minutes used to be so well respected.
Doesn't
and now,
sound defanged when I listen to it.
That's because you have a purple
I don't
ear.
know. You gotta listen to their fawning coverage of him. Tony Dokupoul, who is their new anchor, is a Trump sycophant. So
Because I still start out in the morning, I turn on Fox News, don't grimace. I get halfway to my destination, I go to CNN, and I figure somewhere in between
no.
is
Not
reality.
anymore.
Now they're both on the same side. You might
Not
have
anymore.
to. You might have to rethink
You might
that.
have to, yeah.
Listen to the BBC or
Well,
read
that's
the
my
Guardian.
third option. When I
or-
get tired
or-
of both of them, I flip to the BBC. Channel 120 on Sirius.
and you know I wouldn't really consider CNN necessarily left-leaning. I mean, they were kind of left-leaning, but I think it was more adherence to facts and in journalism where,
Facts have a well-known liberal bias.
yeah.
And newspapers too. I mean, Bezos owns the Washington Post, and
Murdoch
And has been
owns New York
destroyed.
Times or the
Yeah.
Wall Street Journal.
yeah, it's not good, you
No.
know. So I mean, so people are angry, and we're going to get together and we're going to make our voices heard because, not for nothing, but Congress didn't even have a voice in this war.
No.
And they're
Which is
supposed to. It's
unconstitutional.
unconstitutional.
I don't
This is
think
an
you're right on that
unconstitutional-
point. What war?
You mean the
Oh.
excursion?
You mean the special military
I
operation?
thought
A
the
rose by
Senate
any
is the
other
only one
name.
that can declare war.
Well, I don't know.
I'm joking,
If it
but-
looks
I
like a
know.
duck, right? I mean, this is what's so crazy. I mean, the Congress has they've been on vacation more than the Massachusetts legislature, and that's a problem. Like, what the heck?
And
not
they're
doing
getting
their
paid.
jobs.
Meanwhile, this stand
Actually, who Delta was got put on blast because they've been flying ICE detainees now. And there was a big article that came out about it, calling them out. And so today they announced that members of Congress are no longer going to get
special
Special
service.
treatment.
Yeah.
As long as the shutdown goes
Right.
on.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah, now
good.
tell me about this shutdown. I'd like to hear, my understanding is ICE is at the core of this, but ICE has been funded till 2028.
Because
So are you shutting down everything but ICE?
We're shutting down everything else, everything in the Department of Homeland
Security.
Security, everything but ICE, with a demand that ICE be moderated a little bit. In other words,
Demasked.
in other words, no masks, body cams, that kind of thing.
They have to have warrants or something.
Which would be a step in the right direction. I support elimination of ICE.
Oh, yeah.
And do something completely different.
Still
about
putting
immigration
lipstick on a
enforcement.
pig with ICE.
Yeah,
When
because
shooting citizens in the face is
It's-
like your policy, you probably shouldn't exist
it's
as a
basically a
government
brown
agency.
shirt organization.
Yeah.
And,
It's
And,
the-
and they're at the
it's
airport
Gestapo.
now, and they're getting paid, but the TSA is not. How does that make sense?
Figure that out.
See, ICE got lumped into the anti-terror rubric years ago.
Yeah.
When we were doing the Iraq War, and it should be pulled back out of it. And so that's why we want to
That's-
abolish ICE.
Yeah, that's actually mechanically how they are still
But
being
what
paid.
replaces ICE?
Why do they need to exist? They didn't exist until what,
We have Border
1987?
Patrol. Why do we have ICE?
When did they?
Oh, no, it was more recent than that.
97?
It was I want to say it was like 2003 or something like
Right
that.
after the...
We didn't have them for years. Why do we need them now?
Yeah.
I don't know.
We had a different agency who was dealing with it.
Like, what are they bringing? What are they bringing? You know, they're not protecting us against terrorists. They're shooting citizens in the street. They're pulling people like me over.
And they're locking
For
people
doing
up in
what?
concentration camps, you know, and
And these are not the worst of the worst. These are not the drug
And-
dealers. These aren't the murderers.
Actually,
They're
you know who
doing
the
it on
rapists and the
quotas.
murderers are? The ICE agents. Do you know how many girls got pregnant in these concentration camps? And by the way, our government is paying millions of dollars to purchase vacant warehouses, and we're overpaying for them. I'd love to know, where's that extra money going?
And we can't pay food stamps, and we can't pay health care.
Yeah, why do we have all this money? There's a long-term plan here, and people should be really scared. Seriously. We know that back in in World War II, when we got attacked by Japan, so now we're going to
Japanese
round up all
internment
these
camps.
Japanese people.
Right.
Okay, we knew that was wrong. And now
and we apologized
and
for
we
it.
apologized publicly. It took too long to do that, but we did that, and now we're going to do it again.
Right.
And we're deporting people not even back to the countries from whence they came. We're deporting people
Just
to
arbitrary-
other countries. The private prison system is profiting from
Oh, God,
this.
yes.
Follow the money. Everybody
is-
needs to stop listening to what this demented old man is saying. Nothing
follow the
against
money.
demented old men, but follow the money. Jared Kushner. Let's talk about Jared Kushner in Saudi Arabia, right? So he wanted Saudi Arabia to give him money. And then all of a sudden he gets sent in as like our envoy to represent
Right.
our interests.
Ah.
He's not employed by the government.
He's accepting his
but,
interest.
but he
This
is getting billions for his
company.
hedge fund.
I mean, this is all of this. This is the most corrupt regime. I'm not going to call it an administration. It's a regime. It's the most corrupt regime this country has ever seen. And the irony that he's going into other countries, he's not doing it. Him and Keg's Breath, whatever, are like video gaming, just like taking people out as if this is not affecting real lives and real people. They're blowing up schools in Iran, little girls. Like, what are we doing as a country? Anybody who voted for this guy should be thinking very clearly. You know, you might hate immigrants for whatever reasons Trump told you, but think about it. How is this helping you in any way? It's not helping you financially.
Well,
wealthy are
theoretically,
getting-
they're supposed to be getting rid of the worst of the worst.
But they're not.
But they're not.
Do you really think they are?
Have you
What
seen a
seen?
change?
Seriously.
It's a white supremacist project.
Yes.
It's an ethnic cleansing
Openly a white supremacist.
And it's been
Stephen Miller
justified
said
on
he
those
wants
terms.
he wants to deport 100 million people out of the country.
That's a third of our population.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Which, you know, you can't get to 100 million without throwing people who have been in the country for generations.
And contributing
Well,
to
I mean, the whole
country.
thing of ICE not being able to be identified bothers me.
Yeah.
I don't mind that they're wearing a mask. Really don't. If they had a badge.
Why do they
they-
have to wear a mask, though?
Because they're being targeted.
They were targeted. No, they were being targeted because of their behavior. Prior to them being targeted, they were wearing masks
Right.
before they got aggressive. They're being and
No
But
other
again-
police organization in the
Right.
country
Yeah,
does
how
that.
they're
come
being
nobody else
targeted
Why
has
do
because
they
they're
have to do it?
abusive.
I don't know.
It doesn't make any sense.
There's
But if
legal
they had a
reasons.
badge,
You could steal somebody else's badge. If somebody is going to take you and detain you, show your damn face.
And why do you think they're being targeted?
because they're shooting people in the face. I cannot stress this enough.
Seriously, do you really think that they behave appropriately, that they're being fair, that they're, honoring the Constitution, giving people their due process? No, that's why they're being targeted.
Everything
former-
is upside down and back.
The former trainer for ICE gave testimony that they're no longer telling the ICE agents what our rights are or what they're allowed to do or not do.
But they're not
And they're
writing
being
that
told
down.
things that they're allowed to do things that they are not allowed to do.
Right.
And he
And-
replaced Kristi Noem with a former MMA fighter. So that should go
He's
well.
got good qualifications.
Yeah. So
No, it's
Christy
just-
Noem is also in on the grift. She made all these ads promoting herself in DHS.
$250,000 of our money.
Yeah.
Oh,
a
and
lot
the-
of it going to
let's not forget the insider
a
trading.
relative of her head of chief of staff.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
But speaking of ICE, I think it's important to just mention the upcoming primary, the state senate, the
I was going to
Massachusetts
say, let's
Senate.
talk about the elections because in theory, Trump should lose the House.
Oh, it's going to be a
Yes.
landslide.
Now, the question is, does he lose it or does he lose it?
I think it's going to be a landslide.
And I'm sure he'll
special
complain and
election-
say it was fraud, so.
Well, yeah, that's part of it.
Well, he can say what he wants.
That's an
I can
important-
sit here,
People believe
Guys,
him.
that's an important.
Christine, I can tell you I'm young, thin, and have hair. I'm still a fat old bald man sitting here, no matter what.
You're not quite bald
Man out
yet.
there.
That's
I see
another
a
thing
few
about
flakes.
that's another thing about the SAVE Act too. Everybody keeps talking about the voter ID, but there's a provision in there about the federal government will now be under that legislation. The federal government will be able to get the voting
Rolls
Data
of all the
from the
states.
of all the states. Constitutionally,
That-
it's a state thing. It's not supposed to
Yeah.
be a federal thing. You got a corrupt government who's trying to, and then he's
Manipulate.
crying about voter fraud. He's telling you what he's going to do,
He
which
is
is
actually-
commit voter fraud. He still doesn't believe that he lost the 2020 election.
Oh,
and
I
there's
think he
no
knows he
question.
lost it, but he won't let go of that, because he's really controlled people
He's
like
trying
that.
to confuse.
But candidly, why do I care? Why do I care what he believes?
Well, it's not
he's
what he
imp-
believes, it's what he does. If he's already gotten the voter rolls from Georgia, he tried to get them from another state and they refused, and there was litigation about it. But he did get Fulton County in Georgia. This is scary.
Yeah.
And if
Does-
there is a midterm, he's talking about having ICE agents at the polls too,
Right.
and that's going to chill.
That will intimidate huge numbers of people.
Oh, yeah.
Even anybody who looks like they might be an immigrant would be subject to being intimidated by having ICE there because they grab people based on their appearance.
Arbitrarily,
They-
yeah.
They grab people, and they've said so that they
But
do racial
They
profiling.
can't do anything, can they?
They can throw you in jail. They can
Disrupt your life.
They can disrupt your life. They can throw you in an unmarked van and whisk you away to some detention center somewhere far away where it's going to be hard for you to get a habeas corpus petition. They can make real misery for your life.
That'll
I
cost
mean,
They
how
have
they
power
pulled me
over you.
over. They pulled me over and told me if I kept taking pictures of them, they would shoot me. That's what the guy said. He's a constable in Marblehead. I'm doxing him, right? Same guy who was choking out a guy in Fitchburg. These are the kind of people why are we funding these people to treat people like that? This is not, government is supposed to be health, safety, protection, infrastructure. Why is all of this happening?
To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That's the Declaration
Preach.
of Independence. That's what it's supposed to be about. That is not what this
not
is
what's
about.
So help me understand, I see confusion between the local election coming up.
Yes.
Moulton, Markey.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Talk about that one.
Oh, boy.
Well,
Yeah.
not Milford local.
That's a state election,
State
which
local.
is which is somewhat local.
There was an article in the Boston Globe about this. We've all experienced it because we're all members of the Democratic Town Committees. Seth Moulton first of all, Seth Moulton is running against Ed Markey. The Democratic base loves Ed Markey. The progressives, even the disenfranchised Democrats who run progressive, love Ed Markey because Ed Markey is walking the walk. And Seth Moulton is a relative newcomer, and he first got his national, notoriety or whatever, challenging Nancy Pelosi as speaker. And if we didn't have Nancy Pelosi back in Trump 1, I don't even want to think about, because she was vital. And his whole argument then was, Nancy's too old. You got to promise you're going to step down, which she did, and she retained her speakership. Now he's trying to pull the same stunt. Well, I'm running against Markey because he's old. Okay, well, what are you bringing to the table? We know you're anti-trans. We know you made these stupid comments about, well, if I had a kid, my little girl had to play against some trans. What, are you kidding me? Do you remember being 12 years old? I used to kick ass against little boys when I was that age. Whatever. All right, I'm going off the chain.
Yes.
But my whole point is Seth Moulton.
He's not progressive. He's voted against a lot of progressive ideals.
He's the corporate military, just like Jake Auchincloss, who I'm not a huge fan of either. They're just... It's all about the corporate interests, and it's not about the people. Ed Markey has always been for the people. He's consistent, whatever. So what happens is we have our caucuses, and we choose delegates to go to the state convention. And the Moulton campaign convinced a bunch of people who were either independents or former Republicans to come and
switch parties and come in to the caucus and get voted in, so he can get his 15% at the convention and get the endorsement of the state committee.
Well, it's 15% of the convention in order to be assured of a place on the primary ballot.
On the ballot, right.
And which is, and you have to remember that, our Mendon Democratic Town Committee held its caucus, and
Yeah,
this
but
happened
you
to us.
published that where you said people came in with the sole mission is to get Moulton.
Right.
Right.
And they were people who, in our case, we looked them up. They were Democrats in good standing. They were Mendon residents, and so what they did wasn't against
illegal.
the rules. And in fact, given that we have a caucus system, I could envision a world where someday I might need to be part of an effort like that also. But so the point is that there is this contest between Moulton and Markey, and Moulton is.
But let me ask, if I'm not following the internal politics,
Right.
what's the difference between a Moulton and a Markey?
Well, Ed Markey, and this is where I put my climate activist hat on. Ed Markey has been a warrior for environmental and climate issues for a long time. He's walked the walk, and I don't know about Seth Moulton. I'm not,
I get something.
He has work to do to convince me that he would be the kind of advocate that Markey has been. I will say that I think that Markey, probably 6-year term, he'll be getting up there. He probably shouldn't be planning on running for re-election again after that.
No, of course not.
But it seems
look
like
at
it's the
Grassley.
strategy of he sucks, but I suck less, so vote for me.
No, but
I don't see.
Markey did not go to the State of the Union. He was not going to debase himself and listen to that nonsense, right? And anybody who was a progressive did not go to the State of the Union address because why you want to hear that craziness? Moulton not only went, but he brought one of our residents, right? Marcelo, the kid who got
From
picked
Milford.
up by ICE, and the whole town came together. It made national news and all that stuff. Seth Moulton invited him as his guest. Now, I don't blame the kid for going. I would have gone if I got invited too. I mean, it's an honor to be in Ash.
Sure,
It's
an
very
opportunity
exciting
to
and all
say.
that stuff. But I mean, why is he's not a constituent, number one. So we brought him as a prop. And then number two, why is he even going to this stupid State of the Union address at all? If you're a solid progressive, you wouldn't be participating in it. And also, they had to remove Marcelo in the middle of it because they were worried about his safety because DHS started posting on the internet, I don't know, wherever, Twitter, saying that, he brought an illegal to the State of the Union. So they had to move him out of there for his own safety. If this guy had any judgment, he wouldn't have put him in that situation in the first place without ensuring his safety.
Well, that's actually the worst of it.
Right? So that's, if you had to say
Yeah.
who's got better judgment, okay, well, that's right there. I'm going with mine.
Because Seth Moulton was more self-serving in that regard than
Ambition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want ambitious
He's
He
a
people.
ran
man in
for
a hurry.
president.
He's a man in a hurry. He wants to, you know.
And at the same time, he's very unaccomplished.
Yeah.
What has he accomplished?
Beats me.
Unaccomplished.
No, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
we had an election for the Mass
It's-
legislature years ago where the person was not talking about what they did. And that bothers me. I don't care what you believe your opponent did.
What are you
You
going
know,
to do?
What are you going to do?
Well,
Sure.
and what in your background shows that you would do that?
And why should I believe you? Where's
Yeah.
the proof statement that says,
Right.
you're going to do this, you're going to do that?
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. I don't think the Moulton campaign will go anywhere ultimately.
I mean, it could, because there's an ageist attitude.
Yeah.
And I don't, here we are saying all this. I do feel that Congress is too old.
Yeah.
We cannot have people in their 80s
No.
running this country. But there's exceptions to every rule, you know? I mean, they're just
One
are.
argues the experience, and then others, they're not enough experience.
But there's a limit. I mean, I value loyalty and experience, but if you haven't learned in the first 15, 20 years, I don't know you're going to learn in another 10 years.
No.
Yeah.
Well, look what happened to Mitch McConnell. The guy is like a walking corpse.
Oh, my
And
God.
Grassley, how old is Grassley
He's in
now?
his
He's
90s.
Yeah.
in his 90s and
Yeah, but everybody uses that because you have Republicans screaming that Nancy Pelosi is being kept alive with formaldehyde.
Nancy Pelosi could run circles around any of those guys.
But that's my point.
Right.
Judge what they do.
Right, not what they say.
Right.
And I think that's a good way to end it. Watch what they do,
Not
what they say. Because all these talking points, at the end of the day, follow the money and watch what they do.
Well,
Now,
Republicans
in the
have-
last few shows, as soon as we're done, you comment, I meant to talk about.
Yes.
No.
Here's your chance, Lauren. What's the next
Oh,
topic?
my God. Guys, remind me.
Well, I was going to talk about the climate bills and
Okay.
and the save money with clean heat if people want to spend time on that.
Well, we got 10 minutes.
Okay, I'll be brief, which will be an achievement for me. But so we have in the state an energy affordability problem. Gas bills and electric bills are both through the roof. Electric bills are partly through the roof because gas bills are through the roof, because we make a lot of our electricity using gas. And so at the same time, we have a climate crisis that we are facing. And the state of Massachusetts has correctly put in place a goal that we're going to be net zero carbon emissions by 2050. That is a good goal to have and a good goal to work towards. And so now, though, the problem we have is that part of the reason why our gas is so expensive is because our gas infrastructure is reaching the end of its useful life and is starting to leak and is having to be replaced. It's very expensive to do that, and we're doing that at a time when the number of gas customers is going down because people are transitioning to heat pumps. At the same time, though, what we need for the climate is for everybody to electrify and then get the electricity from renewable sources. So the approach we are trying to persuade the legislature to take is to put legislation in place that will make it easier for people to that will make it easier for people to finance transitioning to heat pumps and solar panels. Solar panels are key because they represent the cheapest cost per kilowatt hour for making electricity. And so the more we can deploy the lower our average price of electricity will be in the state. And so one of the bills that's in the legislature would go out and procure 20 gigawatts worth of solar energy. That's a lot.
What does that mean, 20 gigawatts?
20 gigawatts. Well, to give you an idea,
Is that a Boston? Is it?
that is to give you an idea, the peak usage in Massachusetts during the summer is something like 70. So 20 gigawatts represents a sizable slice of Massachusetts's actual demand, or its
Procure
peak
from who?
demand. The state would actually build it.
So the state puts the money up front.
Yeah, and that's in the bill that the legislature that the House passed, and so what we need is to make it. We need to make electricity less expensive, because that will make electricity less expensive. It will also make it possible for people to transition away from gas to heat their homes, which will that will reduce the amount of money that people are paying for gas, and so there's a set of bills that would set up a climate bank and take advantage of Massachusetts's ability to issue bonds to borrow money at low rates of interest, so that low interest loans can be made available for people to finance solar panels and heat pumps over a longer period of time. And if you do it right, it turns out that you can actually make it so that the loan payments that people incur from this are less than the amount they're paying for electricity
their
that would be
current bills.
taken away by the solar panels.
So
the solar
who's voting against it then? Because I
Well-
can see this dying on the vine in the Senate.
Yeah, well, so there's a lot of inside baseball, as you know, in the legislature. Our legislature is about as transparent as the Venetian Republic.
Least transparent legislature in the country.
Massachusetts?
Yeah.
Massachusetts.
We have
And
achieved
our
that
auditor
dubious
has been
distinction.
trying to
Right, to audit the legislature.
audit the legislature, and
And we
nobody is-
voted to
we voted on the
to audit
ballot.
the legislature, and
And
they
they're
aren't
stalling.
doing it. And so
Yeah.
that's all a whole other thing that is,
Yeah.
See, and that whole movement bothered me.
yeah.
If you were to say, I'm going to be investigated for being a heroin addict, I'd say, yep, okay, go ahead,
Yeah, yeah.
investigate what you want. Why do they not want to be audited?
Well, there you go.
Well,
Good
because
question.
well, the reason it came up with DiZoglio, our auditor, is because she said that there were a bunch of non-disclosure agreements that were signed because legislators were sexually harassing or otherwise
And they were funding the
mistreating.
payments
Yeah.
with our tax dollars.
And we
Right.
talked about this years ago. The DTC
Well-
talked about it with Brian Murray, and Brian Murray's defense of it was, well, a lot of times, constituents will write in and they might write about something that's private or personal. It's like, okay, so redact.
Yeah.
Right,
Not a
You gotta-
problem.
right.
There's ways of dealing
Yeah,
with that.
Right.
but to be not
You would say our
transparent.
government's redacting files?
You're back to redacting files now.
Let's talk about proper redactions, okay? When you redact something that has to do with a sexual abuse victim, you want to redact the victims' names.
Right.
You don't want to protect the perpetrators.
Well, that's
Right.
the point.
So
is
you
you're-
don't
you're
redact the
doing
part
it
that
to
talks
protect
about the
victim,
awful things they did.
yeah,
to not
Right.
make the victim a secondary victim.
yeah.
But the question I have is, did they address the source of funding?
So,
I can see your point that it'll die on the vine. If the state has to come up with money, and, well, you're on the finance committee, you saw what they're proposing. I mean, our schools, our Chapter 70 allocation, the governor proposed going up by 0.6%.
Wow.
that isn't keeping up
Cost
with
of living
inflation.
is,
It's not even inflation. You got labor contracts, which are 80% of the expense,
Right.
that are going up 3% plus.
So we start at a deficit.
We started a
Right.
deficit.
No.
So now going to the legislature saying, not only can't you fund properly our kids, we want you to fund a new initiative.
Right, right, and I think the difference here is that the money that we borrowed is fully covered by, the loans will be paid back over time.
It'll be the
And-
return on the investment
And-
eventually.
Because the thing about renewable energy and renewable technology in general is it's all upfront cost. There's no fuel involved. You never buy fuel, when you're collecting electrons from the sun. You just, you put up the
No,
collector.
but you're buying the collectors.
You're buying the collector, you pay off the collector over time, and then after that, the collector goes on working for decades.
And that's where I can see Lauren's point that dies on the vine when you come in and say, we need X billions of dollars to get this program
Right.
started.
And so, we'll see what happens.
And especially because we're not getting federal funding.
Right.
At
And
so many.
you have to look, though, at the alternative to this, because the political incentive for legislators to go with something like this is the fact that constituents are really hurting right now under the current system with high gas and high electricity costs. And they want to be able to show that they're doing something about it. And basically there is no path to affordability that includes continued dependence on gas and other fossil fuels. Natural gas is now exposed. It used to be a domestic market, but now it is an international market, which is now being roiled by the Iran war.
Oh my
And-
God, there is something
So that is going to
talking
place
about oil.
that's going to place upward pressure on gas prices beyond even what we've seen now.
Yeah.
And now they want to do super deep drilling in the
Yeah.
ocean
In the Gulf of Mexico.
in the Gulf of Mexico by the same company, BP, who had that big explosion. This was during the Obama
Right, and they-
administration, thank God.
and
there was a live camera of all the oil coming out the whole
yeah.
time. Well, now they're going to do the same thing with the same people, but they're going to go, instead of 5,000 feet underground, under the ocean, they're going to go 6,000.
Right.
That should work out real well.
Yeah.
What could
Right.
go wrong, right?
We really need to get away from oil. I think
Right.
that's so important,
Well-
and yet
How
all
expensive
of
is
the
it to-
things that are
and
happening
yet
Yet
to
people
mine
internationally.
look
that, too.
And say, how much am I paying to fill my tank?
Well, that'll convince people.
Yeah.
But see, now you can't even buy an EV now because Trump took away all of the credits, right? They're
Well,
not.
You can buy it.
You can buy it, but you're not going to
New
get
ones
the.
cost more. There are used ones on the market, and there are a lot of really nice ones on the market too. And they are actually, some of them are quite affordable.
You probably have to buy a new battery then, right?
Well,
Well, that's the question, is how long
Well-
are these batteries going to last? And
well,
what do you
I
do
mean-
with them when you're done?
Yeah.
well.
But
um,
again, every new technology, you can pick on what isn't perfect.
Well,
We'll just have to
speaking
see.
speaking as someone who owns 2 EVs, I don't know what that was.
That means we're talking
The,
too much.
the outlook on batteries is actually better than people were afraid it would be, batteries. The studies that have been done more recently show that the batteries are holding up. They do degrade a little bit over time, but it's really not a lot. And
Well, we got through, I think, everything but redaction. That we'll have to save for the next show.
The oil you wanted to talk about.
No,
Well, we're
I
out
think
of time.
I think we did all right.
We did all right, I hope.
we talked about a bunch of stuff that needed to be talked about.
And as always, to our 6 loyal viewers, and it turns out the liberal view is being seen by more viewers than any show we have.
Really? Is that the
So-
Nielsen ratings?
No, we don't have real ratings because we
The Milford ratings.
can't watch, but the data shows that, what little data we have, that this show is one of the most popular ones we do tape.
Wow.
So as always,
Yay me,
to our 6
yay
loyal
us.
viewers, may God bless. May tomorrow be a better day than today. Thank you for joining us.